I don't think the government is well positioned to try to be at the efficient frontier of this. The kind of economies that do best aren't filled with envy. The economies that do best are filled with high expectations, responsibility, good civic duty.
How do you think that productivity increase, that increased effectiveness and efficiency in creative thought applies to governments, to the U.S. government or other governments around the world?
Well, governments are last movers, not first movers. I don't think the government is well positioned to try to be at the efficient frontier of this. The best the government can do is observe, pick up best practices. But if the government can be in the middle of the pack, that would still be a huge advantage versus what we've seen in the post-war era. I don't happen to believe that the most efficient government is the most important thing. The most important thing is the most efficient economy, the most productive economy. And if the government doesn't do much to screw that up, that'd be okay. I mean, a lesson I learned here at the Hoover Institution from George Shultz, who'd been an advisor, mentor, friend from the time I was 19. He passed away at about 100, about a year into COVID. The message from him that's always in the back of my mind is I asked him some question about the U.S. economy, the U.S. role in the world. And he cut me off and he said, the government doesn't have to be perfect. Our government doesn't even have to be pretty good. But if the government just doesn't do too much harm, the U.S. will massively outperform. And I think that's because it's a lesson for people like me who are involved in macroeconomics. We think the winning country has the perfect fiscal policy, the perfect monetary or trade policy. But the most important thing in our economy or any economy in the world is something we don't teach so much anymore. It's called the micro foundations of macroeconomics. Macro is fiscal and monetary policy. What are those micro foundations? I should warn you, this is a trigger word I'm going to use. This is why we don't teach in economics anymore. The micro foundations of macro is, what does someone in that country do when they wake up in the morning? How do they comport themselves during the day? Do they take risks, fail, and try again? When they look at the next door neighbor, do they say, why is he or she getting that? They don't deserve it. Or they look at their next door neighbor and say, oh, I aspire to do that. I like what they're doing. The kind of economies that do best aren't filled with envy. The economies that do best are filled with high expectations, responsibility, good civic duty. And in the post-war era, I would say the micro foundations, what we call the culture of the economy, that's the trigger word. The culture of the U.S. economy has been incredible. So if our government doesn't do anything to destroy that culture, that economy is going to massively outperform. So rarely in the United States, you should correct me, do you hear something that you might hear among some of our big trading partners. So rarely in the U.S. do you hear, well, that person, he's acting too big for his britches. Who does he think he is? He didn't come from that. That language is against the ethos of America. We can be educated, thrive, succeed, fail again, and thrive. And that's probably more important to the economy than exactly whether the government's at the efficient frontier of the next technology wave.